Hi, my name is Jack Hindle,
And this is Shannon McAdam.
and we're here having a conversation that's about pushing the edges and depths of our understanding of faith and discipleship.
Conversations that push us to grab a second cup of whatever beverage we're drinking. Each episode, we're going to be exploring a different question together. Questions like,
Is there a difference between being a good person and being Christ-like?
what does it even mean to be religious?
What happens when we die, and maybe why does it even matter?
Do you have to be religious to live a good life? Maybe there's a question you'd like us to explore, dear listeners. Feel free to send a note to the podcast to let us know. We will entertain almost pretty much, I think, any question. Would you agree, Jack? Any question, we're up
Yes.
for it.
Yeah, I think for the most part, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. There's probably a
Yeah,
limit, but we'll find it when
yeah,
we get
somewhere out there, yeah. But yeah, today we wanted to start by introducing ourselves and talking a bit about why we want to explore these types of questions.
yeah, so people know who we are and kind of why we wanted to have these conversations. So, again, my name's Shannon. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an apostle in Community of Christ. I live in the suburbs of Vancouver, Canada, with my husband Matthew and our giant collection of board games. We love a good board game. In fact, next we are like soon after we record this, I'm going to be going to Board Game Convention, which I am super stoked about. It's one of
Oh,
my
really?
favorite places to like meet other board game lovers and teach games that I love to strangers. Anyway, so yeah, that's a big part of my life is board games. And I tend to take a game with me almost everywhere I go. Um, but I have been a lifelong Community of Christ member, and I grew up in the church here in the Vancouver area, a really like a secular place in the world. So it was pretty rare in my school years to have peers that went to church or went to any kind of religious thing, really. Um, I Most of my neighbors weren't religious, or like we had one neighbor who was um like Fijian Hindu, and so they always
Okay,
had these really interesting rituals and smells out of their house that I loved.
yeah.
Um, but just surrounded by all sorts of different people, very multicultural context. And so, like early on in my life, and also just to frame it, so the congregation I grew up in some ways, I was never really taught that we were the one true church, nor that Christianity was like the only religion for people. I was not raised in that kind of context at all, probably partly due to my family too. That was a pretty, there's good people everywhere. And
Right.
while we, you know, follow Jesus and are faithful in Community of Christ, um, we don't we don't think necessarily that that's the way everybody needs to go, which I know might sound crazy to some people, but
To
that's just
some, to
kind of
some people, yes,
the
yeah.
context here in Canada that I grew up in. So, it's kind of always been that way for me. I did go to Graceland University, for my undergraduate degree, which was a bit of a culture shock for me to go from the super liberal West Coast to the Midwest of the United States. I always talk about that as my big intercultural experience of my life. And and then after Graceland, I will say, like, I have been a bit of a religion nerd my whole life. There's a part of me that's always been really fascinated by spirituality and different religions and things. And so when I was finished Graceland, I actually went and did a Master of Divinity degree. I went to Vancouver School of Theology and studied theology there as well for getting a job in the corporate tech world for a while. And then coming back to, I've been employed by the church for like a year and 11 days now, something like that. So
Interesting.
it's been a wild,
Oh, wow, to the day.
yeah, like it's been a wild last year for me. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am and the background. And so I'm always curious about opening up conversations and making I guess making safe spaces for people to ask questions, because to me, there is nothing about asking questions that deters from faithful discipleship. Like, and in fact, I would almost say that asking questions makes us better disciples in some way, that we are more, I don't know, more clear or more open-eyed and open-hearted about the world around us. And I know, at least for me, the experiences that I've had, it's helped me understand better what it means for me to be a follower of Jesus in this tradition. So those questions and the coming up against ideas that are different than mine have only served to help me be more discerning about how I live
Mm.
my life. Um, and even wondering, like, oh, maybe this tradition, like, I remember. I'll tell a quick story. So I remember going to, I was learning about the Sikh religion in high school, and I learned that a lot of them will wear a metal bracelet on their dominant hand as a reminder of God and like their religious life. And so that whenever they go to do something like pick up a pencil, pick up the phone, pick up whatever, they see that bracelet and it's a reminder to them of their discipleship. And I remember thinking, wow, like what a devoted thing to do to have this thing on your body all the time. That is like it was a heavy metal bracelet to remind you of your faithfulness. Anyway, so those sorts of
Yeah.
things that made me think even more about like, oh, what does it mean for me to be
Mm.
like a Jesus follower? I don't know. I don't know. In high school, I wore a "What would Jesus do" bracelet for a while because I was trying to like
Yeah.
see that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So anyway, I don't
Mhm.
wear one now, but yeah. Anyway, those are some thoughts I have on this as we start to get to know each other here.
Right. So I'm taking notes. That's what I'm doing when I look off to the side. So just so you know, I
I
am
love it. I love it.
very much listening. Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the things you said are some thoughts I had for our planning for today. So it's interesting you mentioned those. But my name is Jack. My pronouns would be he, him. So I was born in Boulder, Colorado, but I've grown up and lived my whole life practically um, in Pensacola, Florida. I grew up going to the northwest. Ooh, some people would be upset that I even stuttered on that.
Oh, no
Northwest.
judgment from me, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about you. But yeah, so I grew up in the Northwest congregation in Pensacola, Florida. Um, Completely opposite. Grew up, and not necessarily that my parents were this way, but everyone around me, especially schools, friends, every event, everyone is very much Christian, and not that every event I went to was a Christian event, um, but that is always in the background. It's just like, oh yeah, of course people are Christian. Like you wouldn't even question it. So it's interesting the differences, especially as I would say I'm non-religious as a person, and I no longer go to church. So it's interesting how we've converged and crossed and stuff like that. But yeah, so I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now. I moved, me and my wife, or then girlfriend, but now wife. We moved to just get out of Florida to travel and see some different places, but also to find jobs that more fit our
Mm.
what we're looking for. I work in right now. I'm working Parks and Rec. I'm a senior aquatic specialist, so I train lifeguards. I teach classes. I teach like water aerobics, intro to kayaking, deep water fitness, stuff like that, and then help manage the pool and the lifeguards. Um, and my wife works in product design for fashion. She's an assistant product manager with Cato. So yeah. Um,
I love
as far as
swimming. I'm like, if
yeah,
I'm ever grumpy, just put me in water and it makes me better.
right,
I don't know what it is.
right. Yeah, you're right. Well, growing up, I grew up on the beach,
Mhm.
and the beach and the way you come out is different than always coming out of chlorine. And now all I smell is chlorine, and that's all it's on my skin, it's in my hair, it's everywhere, no matter what I do. My wife now associates chlorine with me and vice versa.
I love that.
Uh, yeah, so it's interesting being always in the water after a while. It's like, "Hey, man, I" yeah. But yeah, so but let's see, but yeah, grew up I got baptized when I was 10 or 11. I waited, because me and my brother were gonna do it at the same time, and my brother's younger than me.
Mm,
So when he turned 8, then we did it together. Was we did always go to church, not every single Sunday, but most Sundays we went. However, my dad, was also kind of a religion, nerd, as you put it.
mm,
And he would always be reading books about, Judaism, I'm losing my train of thought, sorry, Buddhism, Jainism, shamanism, different Native American religions. He loves Buddhism. He
mm,
he he likes to intersect Christianity with Buddhism quite a bit.
mhm, mhm,
But I was raised in that, with all learning about all these religions kind of at the same time. So while my peers have very much stayed on that one track, especially all the kids I grew up going to camps and all the things with like spec
mhm,
and everything. Um, I think that definitely was a thing with me being like, well, it's all real or it's all fake.
mm,
I would never say that one is more legitimate than the other.
mhm,
So that kind of created uh, just a lack of a drive to be super interested in continuing with Christianity for myself. So,
mhm.
but yeah. But some more fun things, just real quick to put it out there. I used to be a rock climbing instructor. Haven't done that for a while, but I'm starting to get back into it. Me and my wife are also very much game people, especially my wife. We is obsessed, absolutely obsessed. Wants to play games every day if she could. So we'll have to talk and compare notes
Oh, that's a
about games.
religion we can agree on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, right. Yeah,
Board game,
absolutely.
not just board gaming, but board gaming with your spouse. Can I just go off of
Yeah,
this for a second? Because
yeah, yeah,
there's all
absolutely.
these like creators that my husband and I watch on the internet.
Mhm.
They're like, my wife won't play board games with me. I'm like, who are these spouses you
Why'd
found
you
that
get
won't play
married?
games with
Yeah.
you? Come on, this should be like an essential like
Right, right,
intersection point. Anyway,
right.
not to judge
No, you're
people.
good.
I
You're
mean,
good.
spouses are allowed to have different interests than each other, but
Sorry.
yeah,
That's a
no,
rough one. That's a rough one not to agree on.
it's just hard. I don't get it. Anyway, so, but
Yeah.
I don't know. My husband and I grew up playing board games, and both of our families are like card games and stuff. So I think it was
Uh,
inevitable. I don't know.
no, I got you. I got you. But yeah, but we love board games. Big movie person. I love to write. I got my degree in English. I went to UWF, University of West Florida.
Oh,
Would still love to be a writer one day, but I get healthcare right now, and I don't get healthcare writing poetry. At least not yet. So,
yeah, I
uh,
did not know you were a poet. How is it? I missed this part.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes I wouldn't call myself a poet. I don't. I've never been published,
I
but I do love
mean,
it.
I don't think you need to be published to be a poet,
You sound like every
personally.
teacher. Yep.
It's like a soul thing.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, we want a complete sidetrack, but for whatever reason, I know that, and I would tell. Like if someone said that to me, I'd be like, "No, you are."
Yeah.
But then they're like, "What about you?" And I'm like, "Well, well." But no, that's very fair. But yeah, but I love poetry. I love writing short stories is my big thing right now. I used to be interested in writing screenplays, but now it's more to just regular fiction and poetry and short fiction. Um, the idea of writing a whole book is daunting.
I hear you. I like hear you on that for sure. I
But
remember when
yeah,
I had to write my first really long form paper, and I was like, how do
right,
I even get to the end of this number of
right,
pages? I
just
don't even know what that feels like. So
right, right.
I hear
Well,
you.
I always feel like the giant, like the for those the size of a fish books, the small
Mm,
fish.
yeah,
And to me, it's like, how do you have that much to say?
right, right.
How do you put it all out there? But
Well, I don't know. There's so Do you mind if we talk about
Yeah,
poetry for a moment? Because to
sure,
me,
absolutely.
like, one of the most spacious ways I've found to make
Mhm.
room for people, whether it's at church or when I'm like with friends or I don't know, in different
Yeah.
contexts, is that poetry I find is a really lovely way to explore. Like for me, a big thing about religion is about meaning making, right? Like it's how do we
Mm,
make meaning of our lives? How do we make meaning of the awful, crappy stuff that happens? How do we make meaning of the incredible, joyful, amazing things that happen? How do we make
yeah,
meaning out of those moments of awe and wonder? And I
right.
find that like poetry can be this gateway to
Mm, right.
shared meaning making that doesn't have to assume we all use the same religious symbols, but we can
Mm,
still like reflect on the meaning of life together through
yeah.
poetry. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if I would broaden it, I would say the arts in general.
Yeah.
I think that that's interesting because I guess that might be, I don't know if a difference would be the right word, but for lack of a better word for the moment, I would say difference. A difference between like maybe someone more like me who doesn't like ascribe meaning to religion. But I would use art as a way to get that out there and as like
Mm.
as a collective human experience, whereas someone else might I mean it's still technically art, but it's more like a preaching or a sermon or singing a hymn. Um, I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, because if I think about like what does it mean to
Mm.
be, I don't know, religious, or what does
Yeah.
that kind of that getting around, walking around that question. I love the idea of just
Well,
walking around a
yeah.
question rather than trying to answer
Right. Right.
it.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Um,
Yes.
is
I have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, that's like to me, that's the question.
Yeah. I gotcha. Well, I have some pre-planned thoughts,
Love it.
just kind of thoughts, and I was just curious maybe what your take is on
Shoot
on
him at
on
me.
said. Okay, so writing down what does it mean to be religious. Um, I think the starting off base is going to be kind of living your life often, and this is often. I don't want to necessarily like this is everything every single time, everywhere all at once. But I think it's often living your life dedicated to some sort of entity. Um, often adhering to a set of rules, and creating a framework for your life around those rules. I do think might be uh, not tension, but just maybe more of an uncomfortable thing to say. But I do think it can create an us versus them worldview,
Hmm.
because if you are not subscribed to that, or if you are subscribed to that, but you see others that aren't, then they are not of that. It creates there's a division there.
Hmm.
I think there
Kind of
can be.
like,
I think there often is. I don't think there has to be. As I asterisk everything I say.
yeah.
um, I do think that to be religious is often letting things go to some sort of that entity's plan or putting things into the hands of a greater being. So it's letting maybe being like, oh, I can't understand how these things happen, or it's all because of this entity's plan,
Mhm.
or I can't believe this wonderful thing happened. It was all in this entity's plan.
Mm, mm.
And then you said it earlier, and I wrote it down, and I wrote it down, even wrote an asterisk next to it and be like, well, it depends on who you are and what your thoughts. But I do think there is a lot of versions, especially of Christianity, that you talked about the why, like asking questions. I don't always think that you can ask why in the
Mm.
religious sense, because the answer will just be because. Now, I'm not saying that's you, and I'm not
No,
saying that's
yeah.
thing. But I do think there are, and not even just Christianity, but I do think there are a lot of sets of different religions that whys are not the end all be all. So,
I
so
would
that's a lot. I
no,
just spoke a
no.
lot at you.
I love it. I love the lot.
Yeah.
Like this is why I said I'm a nerd
Yeah.
about these things. This is my jam. So
Okay.
no
Cool.
apologies.
Yeah.
Because I would totally agree with you. The not being allowed to ask why is the
Mhm.
hallmark of some religious movements, right? Like it's no, you
Absolutely.
don't ask why, you just believe, and doubting is a sign
Is this?
of
Mhm.
failure or
Mhm.
weakness in the
Mhm.
faith or so, like those are things that I've definitely heard in culture before. Um,
Right.
Maybe some people have heard that in Community of Christ. I don't know. In my context, I haven't heard that. Mostly I've been told you develop, through study and by faith, and that being a non-creedal tradition. So like we don't have a lot, some other Christian traditions have a creed you have to recite when you get baptized. And it's like, I believe in this, I
Mhm.
believe in
Mhm.
this, I believe in
Mhm.
that.
Right.
And we don't have that in Community of Christ. We just kind of,
Yeah.
we do our little classes, and for different of us, that might be different experiences we have. We get
Right.
formed in this community. We're even sometimes like shy about asking people if they want to be baptized because we're like, well,
Right.
I don't want to interfere in your journey and where
Well,
you're at.
I
Sometimes,
wouldn't say
like,
that's everywhere. I would say there's some places,
oh
and
yeah,
maybe more in the South of America, where there are some pressures to get baptized in Community
okay,
of
okay,
Christ. I,
sure,
I
fair
wouldn't.
enough.
I think that sounds more of a Canadian thing, which sounds lovely. I love that.
Fair enough. And I've talked to a few people that
Yeah.
have done um like ministry with different seeker groups who've said
Right.
like, hey, you because in some like kind of I think this is where
Yeah.
I'm a little outside my realm of experience, but I think like if Mormon elders are like taking you through the
Mhm.
steps, there's like on
Mhm.
meeting number such and such, you ask the person if they want to be baptized. It's like this formula. Whereas if
Interesting.
someone comes to us and is exploring Community of Christ, we're not like, okay, in meeting number 10, ask the person to be
All right.
baptized.
In that,
That's more of
yes.
what I
Yeah.
was
Now
thinking about.
I understand that
Um,
way more.
but you're right
Gosh.
that like this how we live out
Mhm.
um this kind of Christian discipleship path is different. But like backtracking to the non-creedal thing, right?
Mhm.
So we don't have a
Yes.
creed you have to say when you get baptized, which for me, and I think for some people who I've encountered who found like a home in Community of Christ, it's because
Yeah.
they didn't have to profess a creed and they didn't have to say, I believe in this, this, and this. Now, I will say when I was a teenager, I kind of wanted someone to hand me all the answers. I was like, these are the questions.
Sure.
Can someone just tell
Well,
me?
I think that's one of the most not popular. What is the enticing things for people with
Right?
religion?
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you actually don't have to wonder anymore. Here are the answers.
Right.
Which
And there's no nuance. Yeah.
I mean, I can see how that would be maybe appealing for some
Sure.
people,
Sure.
but in the reality of at least my life and my
Yeah.
experience, there was no like satisfying answer when my
Mm.
sister died in her 30s.
Yeah.
And like there was no
Right.
like there's nothing that you can do to tell me that isn't tragic and like
Right.
do you know what I mean?
I
And if
do.
someone told me like that's part of God's plan or whatever, I would be
Right.
like, uh-uh.
Mm.
No, don't you be telling
Right.
me how to make sense of these things.
Mm.
I would much rather, which is what I had as a community that's like, we're here to walk with you through the hard, through the
Mm.
difficult, which I
That's
know is probably a bit of an idealistic perspective to have because I know we don't always do
mm,
well at all of that. But for
sure.
me, that's at least in my experience in Community of Christ
Yeah.
has been what's been important is that people are like, no, we're not actually going to hand you the answers in a a clear silver platter, but we're going to walk with you as you explore them
Right.
and try to understand your life what this
Right.
means. But yeah, that's
Interesting.
not necessarily, and there's other religious traditions that would kind of fall in that
Mhm.
world. I'm thinking of like liberal
Mhm.
Quakerism, Unitarian
Mhm.
Universalists. Like there's different kind of traditions that would allow you to even Buddhism to some extent. Isn't the Buddha that says like don't believe these things just because I told them to you.
Mhm.
Try it,
Mhm.
do the mindfulness practices, do the loving kindness
Mhm.
practices, and see for yourself. Don't
Right.
just believe it because I told you. Um, so there's some subtlety, I think. But I think you're
Yeah.
right that the religion that makes the news and the religion that often
Yes.
pushes its hard line and hurts people is the kind that
Um,
says, don't question, we've got all the answers. Yeah, you're
right.
totally right. There's a lot of that out there.
Yeah, because I stuff my dad would read and talk about, like, with Jainism, they're definitely not like, you have to, let they're very of what you said about literally walk with us and then, just everywhere they or sweep everywhere they go so they don't hurt anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
quite the practice. But yeah, I got you. So, do
And
you
I think
think Oh, mhm, go ahead.
I would say, and I think that's part of to at least like just be meta for a second. That's why we're having
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
podcast is to be like,
Yeah.
no, it's totally okay to ask questions here. And I'm an
Mhm.
apostle, and it's okay to ask me
Right.
questions, and it's okay for me to ask questions. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of what we're doing here. So anyway, go ahead with your what you were gonna say.
Yeah. Well, I'll put what I was gonna say in a pen real quick. I do wanna say as, like, I use the word asterisk a lot, but as a just an overall, by the way, I think if I was raised and not to be like, everything has its problems, nothing is ever perfect and wonderful and absolutes, but I will say that if I didn't grow up in community with Christ, I probably would not be doing a conversation with you right now or what
Right?
have you,
Yeah.
because I think Community of Christ is one of those churches that do, um, trying to put things nicely, but maybe I don't have to. But they don't. They're not the hard line. I guess is
Mm.
a nicer way to say it. And I think I remember like being 16. So this would have been for my age. This would have been in 2016
Yeah.
when I was
Okay.
16. I was
Oh, that's
born in the year
easy.
2000. Yep, yep. Yeah, my age is whatever the year is. So it's 2000, it's 2026. I am also 26. But anyways, I remember being 16, and this is, definitely way before George Floyd. This would have been 4 years before George Floyd. I was at Spec, and they had a whole like Black Lives movement, a
Mm.
speaker and a rapper doing that. And I remember not everyone in that auditorium was cheering, and just put it there. But I do remember like it was like everyone stand up if you support, and I felt good not to be like, "Oh, look at me. History looks great on me in this moment." But I do remember standing up. But I do remember, without, calling anyone out, but the entire, auditorium, I would say not a ton of people stood up. And
Wow.
it was very tense. I remember in that moment being like, "Ooh, ah." But all the point of that though is that the leadership team of that summer camp, the directors of that summer camp wanted that person to speak. They wanted that message to be put to young people.
Mm.
And I don't know just about any church that does that, especially in 2016 compared to, maybe 2020
Yeah.
or maybe even now it's things have changed and swayed a little bit, but to be that, far back in quotes, it's not all that far back, but to be doing that 10 years ago, I think is quite incredible. And then
Mm.
everything with being affirming for LGBT, I think I just want to put that out. Like, I think these things are wonderful. And I think that it's rare to find that in the church that is so big. So
Mm.
just want to put all that out there as
Yeah.
a disclaimer.
Yeah.
So when I say things negatively here and there, I do genuinely love that this church does do these things and has these mindsets, and that art is like art out there. I met him last year, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, it
Art
was last
Smith?
Art Smith. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't know his last name, but I remember him saying like he's doing like lobbying for trans rights,
Mhm.
and like you don't hear that with church very often. So just again, maybe too much of I'm a long-winded person by nature, so I apologize, but I just want to put all that out there. So,
Yeah, no apologies. We're here to talk, Jack. That's
yeah,
why. If people didn't want to listen to us,
yeah, yeah,
they can turn it off.
yeah. That's true. I mean, that's fair. That's 100% fair.
But that's
But yeah,
amazing. No, and I
yeah,
don't think we necessarily have. I think, at least for me, an important part of my role is to listen, to hear how we're not maybe
mm,
living up to that when we're not, and how do we
sure,
work to get better where we can, considering we
right,
have this really complicated global denomination where the
right,
experience vastly different
yeah.
across cultures and countries. So, but yeah, no, you
I
raise
mean,
a
even
really
the
good
rule of
question.
laws are different and
No, it's
can create
wild.
tense situations. So yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
to come to that, like, I don't know, I always think it's amazing we come to that World Conference floor together and we're able to be one body still
Mm,
and in our
sure.
diversity,
Yeah.
come to the table together, which is cool. I
Yeah.
wonder if maybe
Mhm.
I'm looking at our time and thinking our audience might be needing, after their 2 cups of coffee, to take a little break. So maybe we
Okay.
wrap up here for today.
I think that's fine. Yeah, we
Awesome.
can pick right back up.
Well, thanks, Jack, for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for
And
letting me
thank
ramble.
You're welcome. And thank you to our listeners. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode of Second Cup, while you'll hear us walk around more of these questions that will challenge the edges of our depths of understanding of faith and discipleship. Bye for now.
Bye.